February 19, 2013, a maintenance worker climbs to the roof of a decaying Los Angeles hotel. Guests have been complaining about the water. It tastes wrong, looks strange, feels thick. He opens the lid of a massive water tank. What he sees inside will haunt him forever. For nearly 3 weeks, hundreds of people had been drinking, bathing, and brushing their teeth with water contaminated by a human body. This is the story of Elisa Lam and the 18 days that turned a solo trip into an international mystery. January 2013. 21-year-old Elisa Lam arrives in Los Angeles, traveling alone down the West Coast. She's a student from Vancouver, adventurous and optimistic, staying in touch with her parents every single day. But on January 31st, the calls stop. The silence is immediate, absolute. When her body is finally discovered weeks later, the circumstances are so bizarre that millions around the world refuse to believe the official explanation. What really happened to Elisa Lam at the Cecil Hotel? Elisa Lam was the daughter of Hong Kong immigrants studying at the University of British Columbia. Friends described her as bright and friendly. Days before she vanished, a bookstore manager remembered her buying gifts for her family, smiling, full of life. But Elisa carried an invisible burden. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She traveled with prescription medication, meant to keep her stable. The hotel she chose was anything but safe. The Cecil Hotel, rebranded as Stay on Main, sat on the edge of Skid Row, a neighborhood drowning in homelessness, addiction, and violence. The building itself had housed serial killers. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, had lived there. So had Jack Unterweger. The hotel manager would later admit she witnessed around 80 deaths during her time there. This wasn't just a hotel. It was a place where tragedy was routine. Elisa checked in on January 26th. At first, everything seemed normal. She explored the city, visited bookstores, took photos. But something shifted. On January 31st, she moved rooms. Her roommates had complained about her strange behavior. That evening, hotel staff saw her wandering the hallways, shouting, "I'm crazy, but so is LA." She was told to leave a restricted area. Then she walked toward the elevators. That was the last confirmed sighting. When Elisa didn't call home, her parents knew immediately something was wrong. They reported her missing on February 8th. Police searched the hotel. They found her belongings still in her room, her computer, wallet, clothes, and critically, her medication. The room was in disarray. On February 13th, the LAPD released security footage from the hotel elevator. The video was disturbing. Elisa enters the elevator alone, presses multiple buttons, then hides in the corner as if someone is chasing her. She peers out into the hallway, her movements jerky and frantic. She steps in and out repeatedly, waving her hands in strange gestures, as though talking to someone who isn't there. Then she disappears from view. The footage goes viral almost instantly. Millions watch, trying to decode her movements. Is she running from someone? Hiding? The internet explodes with theories, murder, ghosts, government conspiracies. But the answer wouldn't come from the video. It would come from the roof. February 19th. Nearly 3 weeks after Elisa's disappearance, guests continue complaining about the water. It's discolored. The pressure is weak. Some say it tastes foul. Maintenance worker Santiago Lopez is sent to investigate the rooftop water tanks. He climbs the platform, ascending a 10-foot ladder to reach the massive cisterns. He opens the heavy metal lid. Elisa Lam is floating inside. Firefighters have to cut the tank open to retrieve her body. The coroner's initial findings are labeled suspicious. But as the forensic evidence comes in, a grim picture begins to form. There are no signs of trauma, no defensive wounds, no evidence of assault or struggle. Toxicology tests detect her bipolar medications, but only traces. She had either stopped taking them or was severely under-medicated. What the evidence reveals is a mental health crisis. The erratic behavior in the elevator wasn't fear of a person. It was psychosis, paranoia, hallucinations. Detectives believe Elisa in the grip of a manic episode, made her way to the roof. Somehow, she bypassed a door that should have been locked, one that was supposed to trigger an alarm. But the alarm never went off. The hotel's security had failed. Once on the roof, Elisa climbed onto the platform, scaled the ladder, and lifted the 20-pound lid of the water tank. Why? Perhaps she thought she was hiding. Perhaps the delusions told her it was safe. Once inside the 8-foot-deep tank, she couldn't get out. The water was cold. Hypothermia set in a phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing. Victims of severe hypothermia feel an overwhelming sensation of heat. They remove their clothing in confusion. Elisa's clothes were found floating beside her body. June 2013. The Los Angeles County Coroner delivers the final ruling: accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing factor. It's not the answer the internet wanted. Elisa's parents file a wrongful death lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel, arguing the roof should have been secured, that the danger was foreseeable. But in 2015, the case is dismissed. The judge rules that no one could have reasonably predicted Elisa's actions, the difficulty of accessing the tank, the extraordinary effort required, made it unforeseeable. Legally, the hotel wasn't responsible, but morally, the alarm that never sounded, the door that should have been locked, the guests who drank contaminated water for weeks before anyone checked. The Cecil Hotel had failed long before Elisa Lam arrived. Elisa Lam's death became a ghost story, a conspiracy, a mystery too strange to accept. But the truth is simpler and far more tragic. A young woman, alone in a dangerous place, lost to a battle inside her own mind. The real horror isn't what happened in that elevator. It's how easy it was for someone in crisis to slip through the cracks. The Cecil Hotel still stands, but Elisa's story remains, a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are the ones we can explain. They're just too painful to accept.